Evening, afternoon, or morning, wherever you are. Welcome to Abroad While Black, the show that brings you different stories from people of the diaspora who have relocated outside of the United States, or people who have different business ventures that are bridging the gap between the two diasporas. Today, we have a very interesting guest with us. We have Mr. Roger Roman. I'm sure he'll run down his CV in just a second, but first let's just do some general introductions. So I'll kick it over to Sean to quickly introduce himself.
Awesome, awesome. Hello, everybody. My name is Sean Burrows. I'm the CEO of Burrows Enterprises, committed to building an economic bridge between Africa and her diaspora, and the co-founder of Ingressive for Good. And we're tasked with training 1 million African youth, deploying $1 million in funding, and connecting to 5,000 jobs in the next 5 years. I'm really happy to have Roger here. We've met crossing paths in a similar space, trying to create these Pan-African connections, build business, get money, help our community, social impact. I feel like we got a real warrior over here. So I'm really excited to have you on because technically, in many ways, you represent what is really possible for Black Americans in the United States who are figuring out how to connect to the African continent. Everybody's not ready to just jump over and move, and you've done something very interesting. So we'll jump into that. But first, let's hear a little bit about you, man. Give us a little bit of the background, the rundown, and do that.
Yeah, man. So thank you for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. I think it's amazing what you're doing, getting these stories out there. So I just want to say that, and I appreciate the kind words, Sean. My background, I'm a startup founder, I'm an investor, and my skill, my paid skill is marketing. That's kind of how I got into tech. And I'm the co-founder of AfriBlocks. So AfriBlocks is a freelance collaboration platform and network that our aim is to connect and bridge those connections, similar to what Sean is working on in his life's work, bridge those connections throughout the diaspora. And one way we're able to do that is by empowering freelancers and people who have professional skills on the continent, and at the same time empowering entrepreneurs and C-level executives and people, in the U.S. and UK and Canada, Caribbean, wherever Black people are, who need work done. Before I started this startup, I was working as a marketing consultant, and I was working with a bunch of different startups, and we relied heavily on freelancers, and we were contracting people from Estonia and from Taiwan and from India and all these different places, helping them, build an economy in their countries, and the meantime, we have Africa here, which is huge. So many people, so many talented people, like ripe for innovation, ripe for growth. And then there's the cultural connection too, right? So when my co-founder approached me and he said, he had kind of been, just hooking people up with jobs because he was splitting his time from Zimbabwe and DC. Hooking people up that he went to school with, he wanted to formalize it and put a business around it. We got to the drawing board, man, and it's been a crazy 5 months. COVID accelerated some things, installed some things for us, but it's been amazing. We've placed in the last 5 months, we've completed about almost 500 jobs. We've helped a lot of people build up their portfolio and make money. We've got great partners like Ingressive for Good that's helping us out on our professional development stuff. We just started fundraising. So the business has been completely bootstrapped for the last year. We launched our MVP in September of 2019, but it didn't really become a real business, honestly, until about 5 or 6 months ago. It was just kind of a side hustle before that. And things have been moving really fast. So, we're in the process of raising about $750,000 now. We want to, continue to build out our marketplace, build out our collaboration tools, and tackle this payment thing because that's been a big headache for a lot of our freelancers. So that's kind of, I had to pitch my company in that. I appreciate you guys listening to all that, but that's kind of how I got to the point of, being here in the States. I live in LA, Los Angeles, California right now.
All right, West Side.
I've been talking to my wife about it, and it was kind of a joke, a couple years ago, we're gonna move to Africa at some point. We're moving to Africa, you know. And
Okay.
now it started to become real. Like, you know, she's like, okay, you're building after blocks, like, you know, you're having these 3 a.m. WhatsApp calls and all this stuff. Like, what's going on?
This is real.
Yeah, and I'm like, it's happening.
I mean, you always have to give white props. Anybody that's willing to tolerate her husband doing 3 a.m. WhatsApp calls. I mean, she a
Who
keeper.
are you talking to?
Or she was over his shoulders protecting the space.
Jake from State Farm? Like, who is this? Who are you talking to, man?
Jake from State
She's a
Farm.
keeper.
Yeah.
She's a keeper. So let's just jump into it. So as you mentioned, COVID has stalled some things, and it's also propelled some things. And I had a call today with some partners we have in the U.S., and one of the things we were talking about is the difference in COVID between what's in the U.S. and then what's here. And one of the topics we had to touch on is your boy Trump, Walter Reed, this photo op, or COVID spread. I don't know what to call it.
So
This has
there's a lot to say about this, right?
There's a whole lot.
So as you guys know, as everyone know, like the political space here has been, you know, turmoil. It has been turmoil since the founding of the country for us, right? But that's a whole different podcast, right? So it's been really bad since Trump got into office, and you know, like racial tensions have been on the forefront and all this stuff. So like it's all there for us, and it's created this air of doubt, right? Like you can't believe anything. Like it was a point. I used to be looked at as a conspiracy theorist amongst my family. Like I was the one with the tinfoil hat, you know, calling out these conspiracies and stuff. And it's like now conspiracies are made, like it's mainstream because, you know, my wife and I
because are they really conspiracies, or like you said, are they really facts that like people just are in denial about?
Exactly. So with Trump in particular, my wife, and I'm putting her out here, she thinks it's a hoax. Like she doesn't believe in it, right? And she has good reason not to believe anything he's saying. And I'm saying, well, I believe he's sicker than he is. And we're both kind of like, well, yeah, you're probably right. You know what I mean? Like there's no accountability and no trust.
So just to clarify, you think that he doesn't have it or that he does have it?
So my wife, every day we've been going back and forth. My wife thinks that he never had it and he's faking. I believe that he's probably sicker than they're really letting on. And we both agreed that it's probably somewhere in the middle. Like, but I think the bigger story here is not whether he has it or not. It's just the fact that we don't know what's going on, right? Like in the past, when presidents have been sick or hurt or whatever, like doctors have come out and kind of misled American people in the goal for national security or whatever. So like you already know that we're gonna get half truths from the government. But with this guy, like the lies are so blatant and so outlandish, like we don't know if he is really in trouble or if he has faked the whole thing as part of his October surprise.
That's what I was just about to say. Now, here's where I am with Trump. If you just got your whole tax history for the last 15 years aired out on every media outlet possible, and we find out that you're barely paying anything, and whenever possible, all the things you're writing off, how you're using tax loopholes to pay your children and different things like this. And then it was like, hey, Trump, what are you going to do about that? Hey, Trump, what do you have to say about this? Trump, what do you have to say about this? And he's like, oh, I can't say anything about this. I have a debate coming up. And then you atomic bomb the debate.
Yeah.
You embarrass yourself.
That's what I'm going to say. And even the debate was really such an interesting, you know, as somebody that used to work in politics, I did find it very interesting. The overall debate and how it went down between he and Joe. I do think that, I mean, it was a debacle, but I'm really concerned with the amount of COVID rate. So when you look at how would you say that COVID is in the US? Because I know here in Ghana, I feel like we've really sort of gone back to some level of normalcy. People do wear masks in public places. There's still the availability of hand washing stations, but I think we had like 200 cases in the past month. So, and I don't know if it's the same in Nigeria or what, but just sort of paint sort of the landscape, because I feel like a lot of these foreign countries, particularly even in Africa, surprisingly, are handling it a lot better than the U.S.
Yeah, so I'll chime in on that. I think what COVID has revealed for the states is that, you know, we're not necessarily a united country. We're 50 separate states who have 50 different cultural identities, and 50 different, you know, goals. Like
I
in
think that's relevant.
yeah, so in California, there are pockets. I think the government of California has been really proactive, right? Even though we have like some of the highest numbers here, you know, there's been a lot of messaging around wearing a mask and social distancing. And, you know, when COVID first hit the states, like the city of LA was shut down like 100%. But then, you know, you go to places like Texas or you go to Georgia, where the government is, the state government is led by Republicans, and you know they're a lot more lax on the mask wearing, and they opened up a lot quicker, and like it's become a really political thing, which I think was the biggest mistake for the government, right? Like just making masks political, right? Like who people are, I don't want to say gullible, but you know, people are followers, right? So if their group or if their leaders are saying you don't need a mask, then they're going to hold on to that, and that's what we've seen. So in some pockets, it's been really, you know, proactive and tight around prevention and helping people out. And then in other places, they've gone the complete opposite way. And, you know, I don't know if you guys have been following the news, but like a few months ago, we had people storming the state courthouse in Michigan and a few other places saying, you know, we don't want to wear a mask. Actually, there's an Orthodox Jewish community in Brooklyn. Just last night, they had a big mask burning party because there's a they were throwing Orthodox Jewish people in Brooklyn, throwing their mask in fire.
I heard this. Yeah.
Yeah, they were doing this because there's going to be a second wave. Like all the doctors are predicting a second wave. New York started to do some.
I think it's already, because New York is already starting to research.
The second wave is here. Well,
it's some preemptive shutdowns, and now you have people pushing back. So there is no one strategy. Like it's been a mess. And I think that's been the biggest fumble on Donald Trump. Like whether you agree with his politics or his decorum or anything, he had an opportunity to bring the country together and say, hey, look, we got to fight this thing. Everybody wear a mask. And instead of doing that, he chose to make it a divisive issue. And now we have 200,000 people who have died from it. More than that, 1 million or whatever the number is who have acquired it and are dealing with the after effects. So yeah, it's been handled pretty badly. I say all that to say it's been handled pretty badly on the national level. There have been some state leaders and some city leaders who have been proactive, but as a whole, it's been a debacle.
So, and then let's just talk about, because we've talked about like that really, I mean, for you particularly, someone that's in the digital space, making connections between the African diaspora in the US and then the African continent. Like you said, there's actually been some push. I mean, because you said you've done 500 jobs during this time. So maybe we just go back and do a little recap, because some people may not necessarily have gotten exactly what the platform is. So just to maybe be a little bit clear and make sure we're on the same page, explain to me exactly, just 2 or 3 key sentences, what exactly, if I decide to visit your platform, how am I going to interact with it and how is it going to benefit me?
Gotcha. So we're a finance marketplace. Buyers, if you're a small business owner, solopreneur, or you just have a project that you need some work done, whether it's software development, graphic design, UX, UI, pretty much professional services that go into building a digital business, right? We have freelancers across 7 African countries that are pretty much on call. And, you know, if you were the buyer, you go to our site, you know, you fill out a short form. We were talking about forms earlier, off camera, but you fill out a form, you know, kind of let us know what you want, what you need. And then our project manager will match you with, you know, 2 or 3 vetted freelancers who, you know,
So what this reminds me of is like, so if you're familiar with virtual assistants, Asia has the lockdown.
Yeah.
on this virtual assistant market. So for those of you who don't know, you can actually get an assistant that's virtual that basically is a little bit of nothing. So what I'm assuming is that because our labor costs are a little bit cheaper than what they would be in the US and you still get quality talent, what you're doing is allowing sort of entrepreneurship in these individuals here on the African continent, probably to make a better wage than they would from people locally, but yet still not break the bank of those other individuals in the US that need that type of tech support, right?
Right. Right. And that's exactly right. So, it's being a Black American, I've had people ask, well, you're building this freelance platform for African freelancers. What about people here who have these skills? And my response to that always is that, we're empowering people across the board in a different way. If you're a person here and you have a skill or you're trying to build a business or something like that, we're giving you an opportunity to work with people who have a cultural connection to you, whether, no matter how strong that cultural connection might be, they're Black folks, right? These are Black people who can do the same things that someone in Taiwan or Estonia or anywhere else can do for you, right? And they can give you a good rate and they can do it affordably. So not only are we empowering that freelancer and giving them some entrepreneurial backing in Africa, we're empowering the people on the other side of the diaspora as well, because now they can actually get work done from people who respect them, people who respect their, what they're building, and they can build those relationships and build those things. And we're not, even though we are an African freelance platform, we are open to anyone across the diaspora, but we let people know that, like you said, the affordability is one of our biggest offers right now. And if you can't compete with that price point, it's going to be really hard for us to place you in jobs, right? That doesn't mean you can't take advantages of our other services, our professional development stuff. And you could even start, for me, when I started my marketing agency, I was doing all the graphic design first. I was doing all the social media management, and it became a thing where I had to go hire other people. So if you're a designer here and you're taking on jobs and you're building your design studio, there's an opportunity for you to, kind of have that back end of quality designers that can get work done for you and help you scale.
And I think this is really interesting because there was actually a recent study some friends and I were talking about where most Black people are actually solopreneurs.
Yep.
So whereas you see our white counterparts actually build businesses that have 2, 3, 5, 10, 12 employees, most Black people still remain the sole employee of their business. And a large part of the time it is because they cannot afford the quality talent that they're looking for. So now I have to also ask, you said you're working in 5 different countries. And one of the things we've talked about is that every country is completely different. So what you find in Ghana is not going to be what you find in Nigeria, is not going to be Kenya, is not going to be Uganda. So list the 5 countries that you're working in, and then talk with me about some of the differences that you've noticed in some of these countries as far as work ethic, skills, talents, who's owning what. So give us sort of like your insight. So like if you are, let's say maybe you are a graphic artist, but maybe you're looking at relocating, like what country, like what would be the rundown ranking of skills level where you think people should be and how they can leverage?
So I can jump in after this. Interesting perspective.
We're getting some echo from you, Sean.
Am I still echoing now?
Better now. Yep.
All right.
I'll answer this question. So I don't want to offend any of my brothers and sisters.
It's tricky. Set you up.
You might have to tell the truth. Tell the truth. Be free. These are personal observations.
Gotcha. So first off, let me just disclaimer. My co-founder Tangai, he works hands-on mostly with the freelancers. He's from Zimbabwe, and he actually recruited 99% of the people who we have on the platform. So he has more insight into this, and maybe we can invite him back another time to talk. But just based on my observation, I think
there we go.
I had to disclaimer.
Got away.
You weren't getting away.
Yeah, just like you, I used to be in politics too, so I gotta make it safe, right? But so the thing is, I think I'll go with support, right? So the places that have the most support is the place where we've seen the most skilled freelancers. So of course, South Africa, Kenya, Nigeria. Like those are like the, and then Ghana, of course, too, right? Like Ghana has a
Don't
solid.
lie. I mean, I work in Ghana, so you don't have to stroke it just because I'm on the call.
No, I think those places, the governments there and the people, the tech community has really focused on trying to build up the innovation. So like, I'll be honest, like, our Zimbabwean freelancers, we do have some high level Zimbabwean freelancers, but like most of our high level guys are coming from South Africa. Like most of our developers are coming from Kenya, right? Like, the guys in Nigeria, they have a lot of other options. Like there are platforms that they're using that are strictly focused on Nigeria. And some of them have actually seen some traction on some of the bigger players like Upwork and Fiverr and things like that. So like they have options. They'll turn down jobs, when we come to them sometimes because they just.
That's interesting to know.
Yeah, they have more work. And then again,
a lot of people might say these African freelancers are hungry, but like you said, some of them, they know they value.
Yeah, the high, what we found is the high level people who are really skilled, they understand that they're a commodity. They understand that their skill set is a commodity. And even though they can still come in at a price point way lower than someone here in the States, it's not that much lower, and their skills are on par. Most times it's better. So those guys we kind of reserve for those high level jobs. But like if you're a solopreneur and you have an e-commerce like fashion store or, something that you're just building up and it's your side project, we have a ton of, I don't want to call them junior level because they're professionals, but their skill level just might not be, or they just don't have the portfolio, I'll say that, as some of the high level people. In terms of those countries, again, it's Zimbabwe, of course, like that's our base. That's where we started. That's where like most of our design freelancers are from. Like we got a lot of good graphic design, UI designers there. South Africa is our second, probably most populous place in terms of freelancers. We have a few in Zambia, Kenya. All of our developers, not all of them, but like a good chunk of our developers are coming from Kenya. Kenya's doing some amazing stuff in terms of trying to build out their innovative tech ecosystem. And then everyone else, it's a few here, a few there. We have a few from Ghana and Nigeria. Is that 5? I think that was 5. But yeah, that's been my take so far. And even our conversations with Sean, we understand that we're building a long-term business. So like even people where they are now, we don't want to just say, hey, come to our platform, you can make some money and get some jobs. We want to say, hey, come to our platform. We'll help you make money and get jobs, but we'll also help you upskill and get better at your craft, so you can raise your price point, so you can be, that high level person. And if you go through our event and we say you're not ready, like we've had some graphic designers come in and it's like, okay, bro, you're not, I can't put you on a job yet. You know what I mean? You just started doing graphic design 6 months ago and, it looks like Microsoft Paint, but we got some Coursera courses, thanks to Ingress for Good that we can put you in tune with and we'll help you. Like we'll help you go through that. We had some stuff that we developed as well to kind of help them upskill too. So it's really an ecosystem that we're trying to build long term. Again, there's gonna be this is happening, right? People say future of work and they think automation and stuff like that, but that's not the case. Like there's always gonna be a human element to work and what we build, right? And in 10 years, there's gonna be a shortage. Like this is gonna happen. There's 85 million jobs across the globe that will not be filled with the current crop of workforce, right? Globally. What we're finding is some of these other countries that have been leading the way in freelancing, like India, you mentioned virtual assistants, like the Philippines has that market locked up.
Like people got markets locked down.
Yeah, but what's happening is those people in those countries, because I've used a ton of freelancers from India and from Taiwan and China, but their fees are going to keep rising. As they're getting more work, like even I had 3 guys in India who I was working with. They were brothers. They were web developers, like young, man. The oldest brother was like 19, and all they did was sit in their little apartment and build websites and build apps. And I was getting it dirt cheap done, right? Like charging my clients or whatever. And after about a year or so, they started to push back on some of the jobs. Like, bro, we can't do it because, we have 10 other jobs. And, then you start raising your price, which is it's part of the growth in the market, right? But we have this untapped market in Africa. Like I said, 6 of the 10 fastest growing economies are in Africa. The population is booming, right? It's the youngest place in the world. So if we equip these people, give them the power to have that entrepreneurial spirit and monetize their skills, long term, we feel like Africa can be the hub of tech or any profession.
So Roger, I'm gonna have a come to Jesus moment with you. You know, one thing that I found just funny that you said.
What's that?
If we can equip these people.
Oh, okay.
So
what you mean these people?
I'm
not a freelancer, right? So these people are freelancers, right?
It's specific because some people from the U.S. that are Black American, we have a lot of negative perceptions about people that are African. I'm first generation African. My father is directly from the continent. And I always say, I remember even growing up as a kid, like we caught it. Somebody was always cracking a joke about my father being African or us being African. Like it was always something. So I think that when we talk about, when I hear phrases like these people, or I hear people say, I want to live like a local, like those of us who have been here a while, we're always like, elaborate on that for me.
I hear all of your negative stereotypes.
Right. I get it 100%. Like, I get it. I'm Chicago born and bred. I probably threw some of those same jokes out there too. You know what I mean? And it took a process of learning, right? It took a process of learning myself.
It's no harm. That's it. That's it. I just want people that may not, because once again, you have, like you said, your co-founder is from Zimbabwe, so your exposure is probably a lot different. But some people may run across and they don't understand the exposure. So when they hear this dialogue, they might be thinking like, yeah, I can get cheap labor in Africa, and this is like where it's at. And I think what you're doing is something very different from that. I think what you're doing is you're realizing that the continent is the future, and that there's talent there. And if you work to develop it, it can be a win-win for both of you guys.
That's what I was looking at. That's actually what I was about to tap into, because technically we're in a point where Black Americans really are sitting in the United States, not able to access opportunities, feeling oppressed and different things like that. And now when people are saying go back to Africa, now it's like, after seeing Black Panther, maybe it's not so bad. You understand what I'm saying? But it's like, but also Africa has its own problems. And if we're ever going to get to a point where we can either A, have leverage in America, or B, even leave to go to Africa, we have to do development on both sides. We have to build our ability to make that US dollar in America. And we have to build the capacity to be able
and
to.
I think that.
Yeah, we have to be able to.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I think you hit that right on the head, Sean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we have to be able to build the capacity here within the African continent, again, to give us something to come back to. And then another thing that we have to realize as well, everybody else is outsourcing, finding cheaper talent, and doing all these things to build their empires, build their wealth, and build these super strong supply chains that we're supposed to come in and compete with. How? If we're not in the continent. We have zero chance of competing if we're going to go head to head with some of these different companies, and we're not doing what, let's say, a China is doing, which is basically whatever America makes, we're going to make one too, and we're going to all use it.
And I don't know how you feel about that, but I feel like we have to be really careful with that dynamic, because once again, there's already so many negative perceptions that Black people in America and Black people worldwide already hold about Africans. And I think what we need to discourage is the fact of neo-colonialism, where Black people feel, Black people from the Western world feel like they're better than Black people from Africa, and I'm here for cheap labor so I can build up my company. And I think that if someone is using your platform for that, Roger, I hope that's not, from my dialogue with you, I don't think that's the intention of your platform. Like I said, I see what you're creating is a synergy. And I think that when we talk about diaspora relations, this is where we need to be focusing our energy, is how can we make synergy so both parties can get ahead, and how can we link that? So yes, my labor might be cheap, but that doesn't mean that just because it's cheap, you come in and you pay me that. It should be one of these things where I can maybe add a little bit more on top. So once again, you're paid more than what you would be paid in the local market. but
Yep.
less than what you would be getting from the US, right? Is that how you're working, Roger, or how do
Yeah.
you set up those pricing structures, and how are you building that out for those people that are on the continent that might be talented, but like you said, creating that synergy? So how do you do that, Roger?
So culturally, it's all about the culture, right? In full transparency, when my co-founder Tongai approached me about it, you know, all of our copy and everything about what we were building was really, it felt more like a movement, right? Like a political or activist movement. Then it felt like a real business, right? And we kind of had to refine some things, but we always wanted to keep that underlayer. That's why we call ourselves a Pan-African global collaboration platform, because, you know, this is for the diaspora across the globe. And one of the things that we try not to do, like, we never call our services cheap, right? Like, we never, like, that's one thing you'll never hear us say about our services. They're not cheap, they're affordable, right? They're affordable because of the power of the US dollar at the moment. Hopefully it stays powerful or whatever. But we always say it's affordable work, and, you know, it's really about empowerment. And that's why we wanted to make sure we had those professional development opportunities on the freelancer side, because, you know, it's not just, you know, give us your cheap labor and we're going to go profit and make a bunch of money, but we want to build up these people. I'm saying these people. We want to build up our freelancers and their skills in the process, right? We don't
love you're a quick learner. I love it.
we want to build up those skills. So for us, like, culturally, it's baked in, man. Like, I'm a Pan-Africanist by blood, by heart. You know, my parents were Pan-Africans, and they didn't even know that they were Pan-Africans, right? So, like, it's in my DNA. And I think the company we actually, my co-founder and I met at, I would be remiss not to mention this. His brother Sinclair Skinner, I met him in DC when I was at Howard, and he's the reason my co-founder and I met. He's the one who started that Bitcoin remittance platform that we were both working for. And I should probably hook him up with you guys, because he actually lives abroad. You know, he's from the States. He has a home here in the States, but he has a home in the Dominican Republic. He has a home in Zimbabwe, and he kind of just travels.
Nice.
He has business dealings in all those places. So it would be.
That's my dream.
Yeah, it would be.
Is he accepting mentors or mentees?
Yeah. Look, I'm gonna tell you one thing about Sinclair. He will talk, if you're talking about anything Black. He will talk with you. He will help you. He will give you guidance. Sometimes too much guidance, but you know. Yeah. So he was a kind of I want to say a role model in that sense of, like, seeing a person who made some money here in the States, built some businesses here, and then decided, you know, hey, I'm a citizen of the globe. And that's how I kind of look at it. Like, we Black, man, we're everywhere. Like, there's nowhere you can go where you can't find us. So, like, we're citizens of the globe. And even I had to tell my mom this, like, even if, you know, I take her grandkids and we move to Africa, we're not gone forever. Like, you know, this Chicago will be home because Chicago is home, right? Like, that's what it is. LA is home. DC is home. Like, we're citizens of the globe. And, you know, I that's one thing I like about Ghana, because I've been reading about that dual citizenship. I'm like, okay, well, you know, I can have my cake and eat it too, because then I can establish myself as a citizen there and things like that.
I feel like you're gonna be getting the ingredients for that cake for a while. So don't get ready to sit down at the table just yet. It's not nearly as easy as people
I know.
make it seem.
It was easy for Ludacris.
Right.
Ludacris didn't get it in Ghana. Ghana has been dealing with foreigners for a while. He's married. And then another thing is he's married. I forget which country it was. I think it was Burkina. I can't remember. But he's married. His wife is of that nationality. So I think married. So it's not like he just showed up like, yo, I'm Luda. And they were like, yeah, that's it, Luda. You know? So I think we have to be thinking of that. And I think this is interesting to hear you say this, because even when I look at this in tax regulations, you don't have to give all your business away or how your model is. But I think one thing that I always caution people, particularly if you want to move abroad, is understand the tax structure. Because if you do want to have some of these things like maintaining your U.S. passport, you do have to have taxes. So I would just be interested, let's say I'm a solopreneur, I'm hiring, and a talent from the African continent, is that taxable? How does that go? Like, I mean, is it just a freelance opportunity and everybody pays their own taxes? How does that actually go for people that are interested in using your platform? I'm
So
just curious. And once again, if you don't know, then I mean, you don't have to give it all away. But
no, it's completely fine. So we're a Delaware C corp, right? So like we're subject to all of Uncle Sam's taxes and everything, but we have a subsidiary in Zimbabwe, and how I envision it working going forward is, you know, the countries that we are active in, you know, as we formalize this thing, because still we're pre-seed, we're very early in the process, but as we formalize it, we'll have subsidiaries in each country to deal with the regulations and the payment rules there. Right now, we're just kind of hacking things together, but eventually we'll have to approach that, and that's fine. I mean, on our end, we have to pay taxes as a company to the United States government, and it's helped us in some ways in terms of our fundraising and stuff like that. But on the payouts, right now, it's just informal for the most part, because different countries have different rules. Again, like and this is why we have to fix these things in anticipation for the future. It's like our Zimbabwean freelancers, we can't pay them by PayPal, right? Like we have to actually do bank wire transfers.
Say it again. This is such a hindrance. It is the transfer of money, the flow of money. I think this is one of the major challenges for getting people of the diaspora to link and do businesses, in my mind.
And that's why Upwork and Fiverr, and I hate to like drop these companies because like they're huge companies and they're making a lot of money, but that's why they have not really had a chance to penetrate Africa, because of the payment issues in certain countries, and you know it's too much to deal with, and we want to solve that because again I feel like if we don't do it, somebody else is going to come along and try to do it, and you have that neo-colonial system that can be built from this, right? Like you're building it on the back of African labor. We've seen this movie before. Like we watched this happen multiple times.
Time after time after time.
It takes someone who has a connection, who has a cultural connection. We're a completely Pan-African startup. We got a Black American, we got a Zimbabwean, and we're open to recruit across the diaspora. We want to build a Pan-African team, but it takes people who are culturally competent, like you said, not saying these people, right? Like those things takes people to understand the culture that's underneath to actually build something that respects everyone on both sides. We don't have to exploit people, and that's not what we want to do. We don't exploit anyone. We want everyone to.
I was gonna say, let me jump in here because I want to kind of explain kind of how the ecosystem works and to give better insight into how this is kind of like mutually beneficial in a few different ways. So I run a foundation, Ingressive for Good. We are basically looking at SS3 graduates, which in the American sense would be high school graduates, right? And then we look at those ones who have entered a university and we try to start working with them to, as early as possible, start getting them to connect to technical skill sets. Because if we don't, Africa cannot participate in the fourth industrial revolution, and we get left behind in a way where it's not going to be like slavery with chains. It's just going to be like we can't access anything unless they give it to us. Right. But with that being said, we're in a position now where the schools are not positioned to equip people with the skills of today. So what Ingressive comes in and does is that we provide resources, training, access, just kind of opening up their horizons to basically get talent to a certain place. From there, what I try to do is get them an internship, because what we find is that we do have to use online courses to train people. It just helps cement some of the different things that they would go through. And then what you find is that they teach a lot of theoretical and they don't have the capacity to teach practical things in the school systems here. Like you can learn robotics.
Not to interrupt you, Sean, but I just want to point out several things. Several things you're mentioning, they don't seem like they're unique to Nigeria.
Exactly.
When I just hear you talk about this, I look at that you even have this issue with Black people in America. And I think that school being online right now is a key indicator that Black people in general are going to miss out on the fourth industrial revolution because we don't have the access to internships, tech skills, this sort of higher level labor. So when I look at it, it's not something only really central to Nigeria. This seems to be a global problem
It
that
is.
everybody in the diaspora experiences. Roger, how do you guys deal with that? Because I think Sean is making some really interesting points, and I know that you partnered with Ingressive as well. So how do you think, Roman, you're sort of dealing with this as an organization?
So I'll tackle that in a couple of ways. So in the States, you're right? So like here in the States, there's been a huge push over the last 5 to 10 years to get more Black people in STEM careers, right? And while that is great, again, we know that business and commerce is really generated from building businesses. Getting a great job is always a good for, and it works for a lot of people. But if we're not owning anything, we become a commodity at that point. We don't really have any power based on, even what Sean has been saying. So our thinking here is that, even though we might not be building all of these systems for the Black American freelancer or the Black American professional, what we want to do is help the Black American entrepreneur, because that's a space, like you said before, where it's mostly solopreneurs. The tech space has been completely devoid of African American founders, and not because of lack of skill or lack of ingenuity or anything like that. We just can't get the funding. So we look at this, helping people twofold. In the States, we're helping people actually build these enterprises and build these businesses that would probably die because they couldn't find affordable help, or they couldn't navigate, the Upworks and the Fiverrs of the world, or, they blew a bunch of money hiring a web developer in India, it didn't have any competency with, right? They didn't have any communication. They had communication issues. So our goal is to not only empower the freelancer, the professional service provider on the continent, but here in the States, to actually give people a fighting chance to build these startups and build these businesses. Most of our clients are technical startups, again, but we do have like mom and pop shops that reach out. We do have nonprofit organizations and government entities and things like that reach out. But for the most part, it's the startup founder, that solopreneur founder that we talked about, who needs that, whether it's on the development side or the graphic design, or they need a virtual assistant or anything like that. So it's, I guess the summation of that is to say, getting a job in tech is great, and it works for a lot of people. If you get a job at Google, amazing. Like I know some people who got some, who are doing big things and they're making some good money. But the real power, I think, long term, it lies in building that entrepreneurial ecosystem. And I think we can do that on both ends, because the freelancers that we're working with as well, some of them have entrepreneurial dreams, and they can build a business based on their services. They just have to build up their portfolio. They just have to get that experience. They just have to learn those things that we're teaching.
I think you touched on something very important there. Actually, two things. So one of the things you mentioned was people need an opportunity to build their portfolio. In America, solopreneurs, I don't know if they can afford the talent there. So we need to be able to connect them to cheap talent to allow them to grow so they can expand there.
Affordable talent. We're using the word affordable because, as Roger mentioned, there's a difference between affordable and cheap.
We don't like cheap. like Whitney said, crack is cheap.
One thing too, just to add to that too, like we feel like we're doing a service because even like my Indian friends, right? I'm in tech, and 10 years ago in Silicon Valley, people kind of looked their nose down on Indian developers and things like that, right? This is just 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And now you have like the CEO of Google is an Indian guy. All these CEOs, like it's like the hot thing to have an Indian CEO in Silicon Valley these days, right? So like we feel like we're doing a service not only to the Black American entrepreneur, but the African as well. Because what happened early on with a lot of those freelancers from India, people from the States, people from the UK and whatever, they would undervalue these people, right? Like they would undervalue, and I keep saying these people, but I'm sorry, it's my American ignorance, but they would undervalue these freelancers, right? And treat them wrong, treat them badly, in ways like that, because like they felt like they were cheap and they were dispensable and things like that. So one thing we try to do is as AfroBlocks is also be that buffer to make sure that anyone hiring our freelancers are going to respect them, respect their skill level, you know what I mean, and treat them the way that they should be treated. That's one thing that we're aiming to do as well. Also, some of that stuff we just talked about in terms of our perceptions of our brothers and sisters on the continent, and you know, some of the misconceptions we have about them and some of the things that we might have said. You know, we want to kind of mend those bridges as well. Sean and I have talked about this. I've had situations where, you know, partners and homies and friends and people I know who are woke, you know, they not sellouts by any means, you know, they woke, they can't. And I say, hey, bro, I got some freelancers for you. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. And I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm doing this AfroBlocks thing. And, you know, it's like, well, that's cool, bro, but let me get with the Indian guys or the Chinese guys that you got. Like, don't give me these African dudes. I don't want to be a guinea pig, you know. So like, there's still some work to be done there, and kind of, you know, remedying that. But go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think you raised a good point, because I think the Indians were able to get their foot in the door because let's say they were cheap or let's say inexpensive at the time, but once they found out they could actually do the work, it was a gold rush. So now it's one of those things where if you look at what's going on in Nigeria, how they're launching their unicorns popping up in Africa now, if you look at like these local developers and what they're creating, internally, I can see that they can do the work. They just need the opportunity to do it. Now, imagine now for the first time in history, Black people, well, not the first time in history, the first time in a long time, that Black people now have their own source of cheap, affordable, intelligent, talent that they can use to build their empires. I think what you're doing is amazing, bro. Yeah. So like what got you, like what, I think you might have touched on it, but like what was a light bulb? Like what broke down specifically, what kind of like broke down the border for you that kind of got you to take the, let's say, risk to start to try to have a business that's rooted in the African continent, especially with the United States?
Right. So again, it was really that experience working with doing the marketing for BitMari, which was the remittance startup. As a part of that, so like BitMari was based in DC, and then they had an office in Zimbabwe as well. So what would happen is the development team was mostly in Zimbabwe and Africa for those same reasons we started this, right? Because they can work at it. The cost of living was a lot, you know, more affordable. And, you know, you didn't have to pay much compared to here. But what was happening, I'm the marketing guy and I'm here in the States. And, you know, these guys would come over periodically, 3 months at a time. So I'm meeting these cats from Zimbabwe. I'm forming these relationships with them. My boy John from Kenya, and like they're selling the whole time. That's the one thing that I was kind of taken aback. I'm sitting here like, oh, I'm in America, bro. Like, let me show you around. And they're like, yeah, this is cool, man, but it's not like back home. You know what I mean? So they're selling. Like, you need to come to Kenya. You need to come here. I can show you some stuff. And that's what kind of really just started getting my head, you know, moving around it. You know, like I said, for a long time, you know, I've always considered myself a Pan-Africanist. I love my people across the globe. But I got really serious about it, just meeting these young brothers who was doing some amazing stuff. I mean, I learned everything I know about blockchain from my guy, John Karanja in Kenya, who's doing some amazing stuff out there. And I met him working on this project. So that's originally how it started. And then seeing that founder, the guy Sinclair I was talking about, seeing how he moved, you know, across the different spaces and kind of established a presence in those different countries, it really made it seem possible for me. Like I said, man, I'm from Chicago. I'm from the west side of Chicago, bro. I'm like, I can't think of anybody in my family outside of some people who are in the military who lived anywhere outside of the country.
Exactly.
Outside of Chicago, really, Chicago and Mississippi. That's pretty much it. So it's been something that's kind of just grown, you know, in my adult life. You know, I never really thought about it as a young person or anything like that.
So one more question then. So what's some advice or what type of things would you want to tell other people who are interested in trying to find out how, like, they want to move to the continent, but they're like, I got to make some money or I got to do something first. Like, what would you tell people who are thinking about trying to start a business potentially remotely within the African continent?
I would say do your research, man, because we have a lot of preconceived notions about what's going on the continent, and I'm still learning every day, right? Like I'm learning because I'm here in the States. I don't have feet on the ground. I'm reaching out to Sean, asking him questions. I'm probably gonna reach out to you too, Cordy, at some point, to ask you some questions. And then I have some friends too. I have some friends who actually have made the move and done it as well. So like, I think the biggest advice for me to be research, man. There's so much content on the internet that I found recently. Like there's a lot of people who are expats who live in different countries, and, you know, they're documenting their experiences on YouTube. So like, you know, plenty of things that I never thought about, right? Like you said, there's problems everywhere. You know, just understanding that you're going to deal with some of these issues, you know.
Okay, so real quick, I find like these people on YouTube, I don't know, because Ghana gets a lot of these YouTube influencers telling life about my repat journey. I find this is never really reflective of what is happening online. I think these people are doing it for the likes, doing it. They need you to click on that video. That's how they're getting their income.
Right.
So for me, I always tell people, I think that no, I'm just serious. Like a lot of times I find like people really glorify their lifestyle abroad. And that's why I think we've had this conversation in previous shows of Abroad While Black, is that you can't really base what you are going to experience or what you think will happen based on the viewpoint of someone else. Because nobody is really going to show you like the ugly, gory struggle of it all. Like, once again, I want to show you that, yeah, this is a big house and they have grocery stores just like we do. And yeah, it's expensive, but I still made my way around. And they make these little witty things, but I haven't found one yet that really captures. And even there's this one show that talks about, they always have this great caption, like how an African-American built an entire real estate empire in Ghana, or how the African-American started this entire medical facility. And people are like, yeah, I want to do that. And then sometimes I click on it and I realize the people that they're profiling are like from the uber rich of Ghana. Like, yeah, technically they're American, but really their people are like so filthy rich in Ghana that people fail to realize like somebody gave them this land. It's not like it's something that they came out and did for themselves. So I always tell people to be really cautious about that. But one thing I think we were talking about earlier is that you and your wife were actually looking at finally making the move. Have you guys started to plan your exit? And do you know where you want to head to or what your next steps are?
So just to answer, I can respond to what you just said and answer this question. So I think you're absolutely right? Like these YouTube videos, they're not an accurate picture. You know, they're you know, they are what they are, entertainment in most parts. But I think it's a start, right? So like, you know, I assume everyone on this call, everyone on this Zoom would consider themselves a woke person who kind of knows their history. But we had to start somewhere. Like my introduction was reading the autobiography of Malcolm X, right? Like I read that book and I was like, oh my God, there's so much going on. And eventually, you know, I went down the line and I learned more and more about, you know, my people and our condition and you know, how we ended up where we are. And, you know, even exploring some of our history beyond slavery, right? Beyond the transatlantic slave trade, like that was a process to even get there. So I think, you know, these videos and these influencers, I think they do serve a purpose for like people who have no connection, just kind of starting that conversation, right? And getting them interested. So for us, we're kind of those people, right? Like,
okay, real quick, I just have to laugh and interject because Shauna's like, this is the first independent book he read. This goes to show when you have an African parent, like African parents are on your education. I feel like I read Malcolm X when I was like in the 3rd grade.
I mean, no, I read books. I'm saying like the first book, I was like, I want to read this.
I mean, it's cool.
I was in the 6th grade.
Cool.
There was a list of books, and I was like, "Ooh, Malcolm X," and I picked it up, and that was like.
I'm just pointing out the difference between having an African parent and having all American parents is that our parents make sure that we read the longest book during summer vacation.
I mean, before I read Malcolm X's autobiography, I was reading, you know, Goosebumps and.
Yeah.
Reading.
Yeah. I think I skipped over all of that. I feel like I was reading Goosebumps at like 7.
The Hardy Boys. I was reading the Hardy Boys.
All that stuff, which is cool, right? But when I read the autobiography, man, it really changed my life. Like it put me on this trajectory, you know, where, you know, I went to a predominantly white high school, private school, man. So like I was the kid. I grew my hair out. Like, you know, I'm down for the people. I'm fighting racism every day in this school. You know what I mean? And, you know, after that, I'm like, you know, I'm going to HBCU. I don't care which one I go to. I'm a part of all of them, and I want to be around my people. So again, that was an introduction, right? It put me there. And I think, right, all my life, right. It put me there. And I think in terms of repatriating and moving, I'm kind of in the same process. Like my wife, to her credit, you know, she's lived overseas before. She's lived, you know, her parents based on, you know, their career. She grew up, she spent some time living in different places across the world. She's actually been in every continent on the globe. So like she has a more open mind than I do.
It's always the women leading the way. You married well. It's always the wife is always the blessing. You married well. You married well.
To jump on that, she has a more realistic picture of what it's like to live in a different country than I do. I'm sitting here like, yeah, we're gonna go back home.
She'll guide you.
You know, we're gonna go home. We're gonna get it popping. You know, we're gonna be around our people. You know, give me a dashiki. We good, right? And she's like, yeah, that's cool, but like, are you gonna be able to deal with the power outages? And you know, are you gonna be able to deal with having to import things? And
that's why they say, he who finds a wife find a good thing. Your wife is on it.
Let me tell
she
you.
in for the 3 a.m. what's up calls. I mean, your wife is a rider.
Yeah.
Let me drop this for this, and this is not for people in America. This is for my people in Nigeria, especially Ghana. The worst sound you're gonna hear at night is it's going down. Sorry, but yes, mosquitoes. Mosquitoes are real out here. But yeah, a lot of people don't really tell you like the real story. And the thing is, I want to tell you the real story to give you the wherewithal to help you prepare to get the resources to actually survive and make it when you do face these things. So like for me, I wasn't necessarily in the beginning prepared for Doomso in Ghana. There was a period in Ghana where it was rough, and I was in an area where it was rougher. So it was a situation where the lights were off 24 hours and they were on for 12 hours. And I was like, who, what, when, where, why, and how? But after that point in life, now every external battery system known to man, I probably have 2 of them. And I don't necessarily need lights. So now, like if I were to flip my camera around now, I know that.
Oh, well, hey, Sean, but before we get into your story, we still haven't heard about his plan to exit and where they want to go.
So
because they might be going to East Africa, and East Africa doesn't have the same issues as Western Africa. I mean, they might want to hit South Africa. I mean, 54, we not the only ones. Look.
The point of the story is once you get the information, you can adapt. You can adapt.
That's true. So
but where are you guys looking at, Roger?
We're completely early, right? So like there are a few countries that are attractive to me for different reasons, right? So I'll just start. South Africa is attractive because I feel like that's where we're going to build the base of our company, right? That's where my co-founder feels comfortable moving. The political situation is really unstable in Zimbabwe right now. And it's actually.
Yeah, it is.
It's been some.
But I love Mugabe.
It's been some. So yeah, that brother, we could talk about Mugabe all day. I
love Mugabe, but go on. Yes.
I be considered ignorant by some people because I'm just this American who thinks he's amazing, and then I hear different opinions.
Mugabe is everything.
And we're not monolithic across the board.
Americans always hate the great leaders. Gaddafi too. I mean, it's fine. We don't expect you to understand.
I've heard some actually Zimbabweans though on Mugabe, so that's why I was kind of shocked.
You heard it too. You heard it in Libya as well as Gaddafi, and then Gaddafi died, and then they saw that Gaddafi was actually the one holding it down for them.
Exactly. So
everybody complains about everything in democracy. You'll never find anybody completely aligned with any party.
You're 100% correct, sis. You're 100%.
But now, when you give the minority of people who disagree a bunch of money, weapons, and other support.
Now we're digressing. I got to bring us back on task.
Started to digress.
So South Africa is a potential.
But I'll say, South Africa. We've looked there. My wife has been there. She's been there before. But then, of course, me being a Black American, I'm looking at West Africa. So like Nigeria, of course, Ghana, of course. Those are the 2 places in West Africa. And then in terms of East Africa.
Don't sleep on Sierra Leone now. Okay. Yes, Ghana cool. But don't sleep on Sierra Leone.
Are you saying that because your family's from there, or because I'm gonna need some?
I mean, I'm just saying it has a lot to offer. Myself, I need to be branching into Salome.
Gotcha.
Okay.
The only East African country that I've really like put on my short list is Kenya, and that's just because I know people there.
And Kenya's cool, from what I hear.
Yeah, I think
I don't know anybody that has anything negative to say about Kenya.
Yeah, and they're doing some really cool stuff in terms of tech, right? So like that's always my North Star. I'm looking at tech and what tech community is going. So those are the top, I want to say four. Did I say four? Right now. And I'm open. Like I said, it's 54, man, and I'm open. I want to be in a place that, you know, we can be comfortable in the sense of, you know, safety and food and health and all those things. And I think that's the basic needs that everyone's looking for. But also a place where I can thrive, you know, with Africa Blocks, you know, and any other ventures I want to do. Like I want to build a global African tech ecosystem. I think that's very important. Like that's like my long-term vision. I want to be able to, you know, drive investments to these companies and make AfriBlocks a success so people can see that this can actually work across the diaspora. So any place that's there, you know, I'm into. Nigeria was like, I want to say out of the top four, Nigeria was like maybe four early on. But just doing my research. Like
Nigeria, I don't like Niger. I couldn't live in Nigeria.
If you go like to YC, if you go like to Y Combinator or any of these other places, like most of their African investments are going into Nigeria.
That's because Nigeria has the largest population and money flips quickly.
Exactly.
That's because Ingressive brought Y Combinator to Nigeria.
Shout out to Ingressive. Shout out to Ingressive. Shout out to Ingressive. So Nigeria, you know, and even I don't know, man. You guys are on the continent, but like even amongst people I know, you know, from different African countries, they're always like, oh yeah, Nigeria. You know, it's kind of like Nigeria with an eye roll.
I don't like Niger. Right? I can't live in Niger. Visiting is okay for short periods of time, but I feel like I can't do more than 3 or 4 days in Nigeria, and like I'm done.
Let me give you this.
Not only is the food horrible, but the beer sucks.
So
first of all, we drink champagne. But let me give this drop down right quick.
So it's champagne.
For a Black American, if you want to move to the African continent and work and like find a job, I would say South Africa would probably have the infrastructure and maybe the abilities that could kind of from how the job looked on the classified ad would kind of fit what you would expect. If you're looking to launch any type of fast moving consumer good, anything like that, Nigerians, 200 million people, are a lot of potential customers, depending on what your price point is.
And that's it. I feel like the consumer rate in Nigeria is basically second to none in Africa.
Yeah, that's
but
why,
once again, this comes back to you have to know yourself. So now we've talked about your top 4 of where you're going. So what is your exit plan? Should we get your wife on the call so she can let us know what she's planning?
So we don't. That's a good question. So we don't have a solid plan today. We are very early, and that's why when Sean and I talked about it, I said, you know, I can talk about the experience from, you know, the person who's decided, okay, it's time to make a move. Like we got to do something. Honestly, I see it happening. If all things went well, sometime towards the middle to end of 2021, you know, we'd be making those preparations to go ahead and move, even if it's a part-time move. Realistically, you know, I want to say 12 to 24 months, you know, we're going to establish somewhere as our base, right? We're going to go, we're going to visit, we're going to get to know the lay of the land as much as we possibly.
Well, lucky for you, I offer affordable consultation services that can help you plan.
That's my son beating on the door right now.
It's okay. I'm sure my daughter will wake up any moment from now. Shauna's the only one that's kids free. He doesn't know these struggles.
Yeah, not at all. So we haven't set anything into stone, but like it's moving fast. I mean, we first started talking about this a couple of months ago, and it was kind of like, you know, my wife was like, well, you know, I don't know if you're really ready for what you're talking about, and she kind of blew it off, and then now she's like, yo, what's the deal? What's the deal with AfriBlocks? Because it's looking crazy over here, and you know, we got to figure out where we're gonna go. You know, so I think she's leaning more towards South Africa because she's familiar with South Africa. You know, I've been reading so much about Nigeria. I just think there's a lot of potential there. I think Nigeria can really be the center of the globe at some point, right? With everything that's being put into it. Ghana, in terms of, you know, friends who I have who've repatriated, and like friends I went to school with who are from Ghana or have family members in Ghana, like that was always the number one place that I thought I would repatriate to, just because of that. Just knowing, you know, everyone says, you know, you can go there.
Don't let it fool you. People are friendly till you arrive in Ghana. Then you'll be calling. They won't even pick the phone.
Got you.
Wow.
So, Ghana,
Welcome to Ghana.
yeah, Ghana is right there, man. But I'm open, man. And it might be a situation where you know we establish our base in one company and in one country, and the nature of our business. You know, maybe we spend time, or I spend time anyway, traveling to a bunch of different countries and kind of doing it like that. But I feel like, you know, as long as I got family here in the States, you know, I always have a presence here. Like I'll never leave, you know, 100%.
That's interesting you say that, because I've been gone like 10 years now. And I recently decided to go back partly by force to have my child in the US, and I got trapped by COVID. And you know, the one thing I was thinking that reaffirmed to me, I am never, the US is not my home, and I'm never, ever, 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 ever
Get on my level.
spending more than 3 weeks in the US. Like, I just can't do it. Like, I don't know how people live there every single day, wake up. Like, I don't know how you guys do it. I don't know how you do it.
It's rough. It weighs on your spirit. But I see it like this, right? So, you know, and I think Sean can relate to this too. I mean, you both can. You both spent some time in Mississippi. So my family's from Mississippi, both sides. My
people from Mississippi, we're from Sardis.
Oh, okay. Got you. My dad's parents and my mom's parents, right? So at some point, my grandparents decided that they were going to leave Mississippi and go to Chicago, right? For opportunities for their kids and their jobs, right? But Mississippi was always there. I went back to Mississippi every summer, right? Like I still got family there. And even though I never lived there longer than 3 weeks at a time, right? I consider it a home. It's a part of me. And I feel like I'm just kind of continuing that transition and making it full circle, right? Like, you know, my people moved to Chicago for better opportunity. I left Chicago and went to LA, and I see what's going on here, and it's okay, it's cool. But I think the final, you know, will on that would be going back home, like going back to Africa, whatever country that may be, and just kind of continuing that progress of upward mobility, even if it's taking us back to where the ancestors were and you know, our people are from, while still maintaining the fact that we've been here, and I can convince as many people, and I can preach to so I'm blue in the face, but I know for a fact I got some family members that ain't going nowhere, right? So like,
and that was just my next thing. Like, how many people have you discussed this plan with, and what was their feedback when you told them that, hey, I've started this thing, this AfroBots, like, you know, I'm linking up with African talent. I'm gonna relocate the company is gonna be based on the continent. I'm probably gonna be out. Just what is that feedback like?
So amongst friends, amongst peers, they get it because they know me, and they're like, "Oh yeah, this fits. This sounds like something you would be doing." I'm surprised you haven't done it before, right? I just had the conversation not too long ago, actually, with my mother, and she kind of felt the same way. Like, it makes sense. I think she was a little surprised to hear because she guilt trips me already because I live in LA and she's in Chicago, and she's like, I can't see my grandbabies as much as I want to see them. You know what I mean? And those things. And now she's like, "Oh, you're gonna go even further?" And I'm like, "Well, come with me." You know what I'm saying? Like, you come with me. Like, we could work it out like that. I think she was a little shocked, but I think the climate that's going on, like the way things are in the States, I don't think anyone would call me crazy, right? Like, it's been like, bro, I get it. And like, it's becoming a more popular thing. You're seeing celebrities talk about it. You know, we just talked about Ludacris, but people are saying, you know, I want to make a move. And not everyone is saying I'm going to go to an African country. People are talking about the Caribbean, moving to Canada. But like, there's a real movement brewing of an exodus, and it's just I think America has never been safe for Black people, right? Like we've always been in harm's way in this country, but I think now there's a blatant owning of it, right? Like at first, we can hide behind the American ideals and say, this is the land of the free, and we're all working to build this better community. But now you have people openly, even some of our leaders, and not to mention our president, openly embracing this white supremacist attitude, and it's made it a real tense environment here. And it's one where I worry every day, even more so than I did before, about my children. I got 2 boys, like they're gonna grow up here. I think a lot of people are starting to see that. So it's not met with as much confusion or ridicule, as it has been in the past. In fact, I'll give you one perfect example, and this is great because this is my brother. My brother Lawrence is an attorney out of Mississippi, and he's from Mississippi. And his sister lives in Ghana. His younger sister lives in Ghana. And I remember she left like right after we finished college or whatever. And I just remember how he would talk about it, like, my crazy sister's moving to Ghana, man. Like, I don't know what's wrong with her, why she want to live in Ghana. And now here we are, 5 or 6 years later, we have those same conversations. And I tell him, like, I'm thinking about it. He's like, yeah, man, my sister loves it. I might have to come with you. You know what I mean? So like the perception and the idea about it is changing amongst African Americans. Again, though, I got some cousins that, if I told them I was moving to Africa, they would look at me like I was crazy, because they're not gonna ever leave Chicago. You know what I mean? Like it is what it is. They think I'm crazy for living in LA, right? So it's been mixed, but it's been more. People have been more accepting than I originally thought they would be, just because we see it's crazy here, man. It's crazy what's going on.
It's ridiculous. Wow. So I was just gonna say, like, I've seen a shift in the responses I've been getting from friends and family and different stuff like that as well. So I'd be surprised. That if anybody would give kickback, seeing the pressures and different things that we're dealing with now.
But I also feel like this is hype, because like you said, there's many people like, yeah, that's cool. When you like, well, why don't you come over? Why don't you do it? They're always like, eh.
But it takes, it's never something that's going to be like a straight shot, right? Like I said, like with the YouTube videos, man, you gotta, going back to Malcolm, right? Like when Malcolm was going out preaching to people and trying to get people to join the Nation of Islam, he couldn't hit them over the head and say, hey man, black man is God, Elijah Muhammad is, he had to kind of give them those breadcrumbs, right? So I think it takes examples like Sean, examples like you, all these people who have made this move and who are, can be realistic and kind of tell the real story around it. It takes more of us doing that to get more people excited about it.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention, I think what you're doing actually is just as important, if not more important, because you're actually figuring out how to make the connection before making the leap. Yeah. And again, that's the part of it that I'm trying to get people to do. Like, it's kind of like incentivizing the mindset of, or monetizing the idea of reconnecting to the African continent. Because again, now, once you've started to deal with people that are in a place that you don't know anything about, you start creating your own personal experience. Like for me, it was moving to Washington, D.C. and actually being around so many different African people where I figured out that everything before I had been told was a lie.
Right.
And interestingly enough, what were some of like the preconceived notions that were flipped when you were kind of dealing with your guy in Zimbabwe? Were there certain things that you had to jump over yourself, or was there any mental hurdles that you had to jump before you decided that I'm doing Afroblocks?
I think the biggest one was like just that arrogance of being American, right? Like it's just kind of ingrained in us, right? Thinking I know everything. And then I meet these brothers who are like super brilliant and like let me just shut up. Let me just shut up.
Humble. They're brilliant but humble.
Yeah, like like I tell my coach, like Tongai, I'm older than Tongai, right? And he defers to me a lot, but then like sometimes I defer to him because I'm like, bro, like these things, like why are you letting me, run around in circles? Like the answer, just tell me, bro. Like you know what I mean? Like it's okay, man. I'm cool with it. I think that was the biggest thing, right? Like just shedding that American arrogance of of America being the center, the U.S. being the center of the world, and all the technology here, and we got to go out and it's really imperialistic in nature, right? Like we got to go out and teach everybody everything. Like shedding that was probably the biggest one, and I think that was something that happened. It was a process that started to happen because even at Howard, right? Like the students who were from Africa were kicking everybody's butt in terms of their performance academically. So like you learn that right away. Like these cats, they're serious about their school. And you spoke to that earlier, Cordy. Like, I had homies who
parents don't play with education.
Yeah, we would go party. Like we party, we in the club Thursday to Sunday. We out. And I haven't done a lick of homework or studying. And then we get to class on Monday, and this dude got a 15-page paper. It's like, bro, when did you do that? Like when did you do that one, bro? Because I was with you at the club, bro. Like I saw you. You know what I mean? So I think it's something. Yeah, I think it's something that over time, I started to see when I was in school. That was really my first time being exposed to brothers and sisters from different parts of the continent.
And you saying this even cracks me up because I remember, so I was on academic scholarship. Some people knew, some people didn't know. I was on full academic scholarship at Jackson State University, and I used to smoke all the time. And people were like so amazed. But then I remember like it came to like graduate, and people weren't graduating on time. And I was like graduating. I had done my 4 years. I had like a 4.3 GPA. I was graduating magna cum laude, and people were like, "You're graduating this year?" I'm like, yeah, aren't we all graduating?
I was that guy because it took me 5 years. So I was that guy like, yo, hold on.
I was 4 on the dot. Like people couldn't even believe it. They're like, you're graduating? I was like, 4 years is up.
You could have told us, Cordy. I was a freshman. I thought that grades just magically happened looking at Cordy. Like, exactly. She's there while I was or whatever. And then she graduated. I'm like, luckily she was a year ahead of me. So when she was like getting into I'm graduating, I'm like looking at my lifestyle, whatever. So like junior year, beginning of junior year, I was like, all right, bro.
Time to get real, man. Time to get real.
I enjoyed it, but I was focused. I had 4 years in and out.
Yeah, that was the introduction, right? Like, I mean, I think if you go by GPAs, man, you're gonna see a bunch of African kids, a bunch of Caribbean kids at the top. Most times, especially at the HBC. So I think that was the beginning of it, and then like just working.
Definitely, we're always at the top.
Yeah, working with.
And you're right. And we work and go to school. We don't just go to school. We got jobs. We go to school, and we still hit the top of the class.
And party, job, school, and party. It's ridiculous.
And you know what? What? Mainstream. So stereotypes, right? Stereotypes are rooted somewhere. So like Asian kids are supposed to be good at math, right? Like they have this reputation for being good at math. And I think generally people kind of recognize that or go with that stereotype. One of the things I think people outside of Black people who have been around African students or whatever, they don't understand like, yo, these are brilliant, smart people. Like these are like geniuses in most cases, like you said, because they can party, they can hang, and I don't think it's anything that like they were born with anything, any supernatural power that is better than me as a Black American. I think culturally, the way education was presented to them, and the way education is valued, I think adds into that, right? So yeah, I think that's one thing that was one of the early things that made me realize, okay, my preconceived notions are not necessarily there, but deeper than that, one of the more enlightening things have been how many things we have in common. Being a person like my co-founder, Tangai, he spent some time here in the States, so he's been Americanized a little bit, but like, he grew up and went to school all the way through school in Zimbabwe. And it's been plenty of times where, we'll have a conversation and there's so many similarities, even though our childhood was totally different. Like the way we look at certain things, certain familiar traditions, like, the way we talk to our parents or whatever, like it's totally different than the way, like, I've had white founder friends and stuff before, and I've seen their interactions with their parents and how they treat their family. There's a lot more we have in common then that separates us. I mean, I really think so. And even though on the surface it may be different, you know what I'm saying? You might use some different terms than I do and things like that. A lot of it is the same. Like for one, I think, you know, I was raised in the church. I wouldn't necessarily say, you know, I'm a practicing Christian or anything like that. I'm more, you know, I believe in God. I'll just keep it at that, right? But I think
I think Sean is with you though. Don't worry about it. Your boy Sean is on that same bandwagon with you. Nobody even sees that fist you holding up, Sean. But yes, your boy Sean is on the same level.
But I'll say that the Christianity, you know, the way it you know, with colonialism and the way it penetrated the continent, you know, a lot of the same things that are passed down in our families and the way we're raised comes from that, right? Comes from Christianity and that church. And I think that's one of the links, you know, that we have in common. You know, it's you know, I have my own opinions about the church and the things that the church has done and allowed to happen. You know what I mean? And that's a different podcast.
Participated in, yes, it's different. Yes.
But I think, you know,
don't worry, Sean will go on that with you. As far as me, the Lord Savior is mine. He died on the cross for me. His blood has covered me.
And I ain't got nothing to say negative about that. I ain't got nothing to say negative to say about anybody's belief system.
Ain't never gonna say nothing negative about that.
No, because I don't want my grandmother to come out the sky and strike me down, right? So,
Mama hit me with a shoe from Mississippi now.
Come on now, right? So I fought those battles and I've lost a lot of those battles, and I know where I stand on that. But I will say culturally, I think, you know, there's a lot that we share. There's a lot that we share that I think has been more surprising than the things that are different. You know, colonialism and the transatlantic slave trade did a number on our people across the board, you know, and we're all battling those scars and trying to build and thrive. And we are thriving in spite of that. And I think those bonds, not just the traumatic stuff, but like, you know, the glorious stuff as well. And, you know, the day-to-day stuff, there's a lot of connection there. There's a lot of things that we have similar. And that's been enlightening.
Definitely, especially if you're from the South, you'll see a lot of connections. So it's about that time. We're about to wrap it up. But I mean, I think you touched on some major things. I think what I took from this, especially in that last part, that there's more that connects us than separates us. But do you have any like last words or last thoughts you want to leave with people, especially those who would like to have a business rooted in the African continent while living in the U.S.?
Yeah, I would say, you know, meet people, man. It's with anything, you know, when I got into tech, like the biggest hack to breaking into tech as a Black man was just networking and meeting people and talking to people. And I think it's the same way, you know, if you want to do business on the continent or anywhere for that matter, you got to kind of meet people on the ground. You can't just say, I'm going to go start this. You can't manifest destiny and go plant your flag in some country and say, I'm going to start my business here. Like, you got to really understand what you're doing. And, you know, shameless plug, if you want to build a business, you can always come to us at AfriBlocks. We can help you out in terms of filling some of those holes for you. Again, one of the biggest things I think we sell is the fact that customer service is really important to us, and we take that to heart. I think that's one of the blind spots in the freelance market right now. Most people, you know, you go on some of these other websites, you got a bunch of different people who say they can build a website for you, and you got to decipher through that. We actually help you find the person who's right for you and your whatever point you're at. So I think those are the biggest things. You know, work with some people, man. Like, you know, just like, you know, we're here in the States and we're talking about going back, you know, repatriating to Africa. There are a bunch of Africans here, man, you know, who will give you the lowdown about their home country and, you know, what to expect and how to work in it. So, like, seek these people out if you're serious about it. Talk to everybody you can. Listen to these podcasts. Watch those YouTube videos. Take them with a grain of salt, but watch them because, like, I think it's a good introduction. It lets you know that other people are doing it. But, like, you know, do your research. That's my biggest thing. Do your research, man. And yeah.
Right. And just real quick before we wrap up, how do people get in contact or find AfriBlocks in case they are interested?
So it's afriblocks.com, AFRIBLOCK.com. You can catch me on YouTube. My name is Roger L. Roman II. Roger L. Roman with 2 I's. I'm on YouTube, Tongai. my co-founder Tangai Chodo, not YouTube, but Twitter and Instagram. He's active as well. You can find us there. Just look for AfriBlocks. It's African Blocks because we're builders. That's a part of it. The name, it sounds cliche and cheesy to some people, but we take a lot of pride in it. It's African builders. Like we're building up a new economy and a new system. So yeah, afriblocks.com, AFRIBLOCKS. Check us out, hit us up. We're active on every social channel and on the website for sure.
Awesome.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Roman. We really enjoyed speaking with you today and learning more about AfriBlocks and how you're helping build the synergy for entrepreneurs and solopreneurs in America, giving them opportunity to work with affordable talent here on the African continent and really build out that synergy before. So I am Cordy Aziz from Ghana. Thank you all for joining us this evening.
All right, and I'm Sean here, locked down in Lagos. We look forward to you. Please follow this video. Be looking for the snippets that we're dropping to give you teasers into the main event that we drop throughout the week. Every Sunday, we drop a new video. I think it is 2 p.m. What is that? CST, Central Standard Time in the U.S. And that would be 7 p.m. in Ghana, 8 p.m. in Lagos, and like 3 a.m. in China. But yes, check us all out all around the world. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you guys, man. I really appreciate it.
Have a good night.
You too.
Nice.
Thanks, Roman.
Bye.
All right.
That not only is this country
I just
changing.
started recording. I should have did this like 2 hours ago.
not only is this country changing, right? The complexion of this country is changing rapidly.
Yeah.
They're realizing that they're losing a place in the world. So like if you look at any of the Proud Boys and the Stormfront and all these neo-Nazis, like it's all what they're saying is valid in the sense of like this is not a white man's country anymore. And that's the pushback. And that's what Make America Great Again is all about. It's like, when was it great? Oh, it was great in 1950, bruh. Like that's when it was good for you because this was a white man's country, and it's not anymore. It's not gonna be a black country. Like you got Hispanic people or Latinx people. You got us here. You got all these other different people here. You got people still migrating here and all these things. It's the browning of America. It's happening, bro, and they can't get that.
But it's more so than that. I think that like. Okay, what made me aware was like even it touches on your last name. So like if you take it back to the Romans, right? At one point, especially Julius Caesar, like one of the things he did was like he like instilled in them, like if you're a Roman, do whatever it is you want to do. If you see that woman and you want that woman, take that woman. You're a Roman. Like it's yours. And like there's no way I don't believe that part is not still within that culture. Number one, in the back of their in the back of their mind, because I see elements of African and therefore Black culture that I see in different places where, like you said before, as different as we are, we're not as different as we think.
Right.
And like now, when you take somebody that there's a seed in that mind that's saying like whatever you want, take it. And at one point, you were living like Romans in this country.
Yeah.
And now people are telling you, nah, you can't say that. Nah, you can't do that. Nah, you can't take that. You can't do those things anymore. I would definitely see that shift because we didn't experience that part of it.
Right.
We didn't experience like from being in a position of dominance to where we are now. If I was a white person today, I would be pissed off, especially if I wasn't well-to-do. If I was just average white, I would be pissed off. I would be frustrated. And it would just be based on where I was, what my grandfathers and my great-great-great-grandfathers were doing versus what I am doing now. They would not be proud of me. They probably wouldn't respect me.
Right. Right. And then that's the thing. So this is what I try to tell the people because people get upset. Black people too. Like when I say it's bigger than Donald Trump or like Donald Trump is like, he's a symptom. Like he's a piece of the problem. Like, he's not even the problem. Like he's what happens when you have the problem, right? Like this is
Donald Trump is a white snitch.
See, I don't think. I think Donald Trump's superiority is more based on class than whiteness. And the reason I say that is because I don't think he gives a shit about poor white people. I really don't. I think he thinks they're fucking idiots. I think he thinks they're idiots, and he's gonna use them, and he's gonna, count like they're gonna cheer for him and boost his ego. But he don't fuck with. He's a fucking Yankee. Like, you got all these people running around in the South talking about Donald Trump finna save them. Donald Trump is a rich kid, a rich white kid from New York, bro.
Yeah.
Like, he don't give a fuck about you. And I think he's just using it. I think he is the symptom of what the class structure has done, in the Western world. Building these class systems, and we could talk about the caste system in India and all that, but like,
it exists everywhere in its own way.
Class and race have been, kind of right here with each other. And I think what we're seeing with Donald Trump is a person who has taken advantage of his class position and used it. I think if the opportunity was reversed and he was championed by the left and he was loved by the left, I think he would be Bernie Sanders and he would be talking about these racist white people. I think the racist white people are the ones who embrace him because to them, he's an ideal of what can be. I can be a rich white man in this country. This country is mine. I can be that Roman, like you said. I can grab him by the pussy. I can do whatever the fuck I want to do. He's that ideal for them. So they've embraced him. And I think the liberals, but I think he would have went into either way.
But this is like what Trump is doing now. This is a coliseum. This is you understand, like, give them a show. And why I say he's a white snitch or whatever the case may be, like this dude is like upper crust Tekashi 6ix9ine, because I don't feel like any of those politicians care about poor white people. I don't think any of them do. And with that being said, I mean, of course, some of them do.
No. I think I look like that because I think there are some white supremacists that are white politicians.
I think it's inherent. Like, white supremacy is baked in. Like, if you used to like do whatever I want to do, now you're trying to say like I want to eat at your table. Like, no, it's my table, bro. Right. But what I'm saying is, like, Donald Trump is showing these things, saying these things, and doing these things on the public stage, things that were commonly done behind the scenes. Donald Trump has not changed anything. Like, even if we're looking at the Supreme Court, like, Democrats were the first ones to like do the sneaky stuff with the Supreme Court, right? What in the situation that Donald Trump is in now, historically, they go back to Abraham Lincoln, but historically, anytime a Supreme Court justice has passed and the president in office is the same party as the Senate, they bring in a Supreme Court justice. Now, we're trying to politicize and do all this other things, and Trump is using it in his own way. But again, he's not doing anything that hasn't been done. Now, he's doing interviews and he's recording and he's telling somebody, he's doing rallies and saying different things like, when you're like me, you can grab him, it's okay. Like, all of them, they're powerful men. They all think like this. They all typically do this stuff. Donald Trump freaking said it on tape.
I get the snitch. I get it. He's put it all out in the open. And that's what I'm saying. It's allowed other people to openly embrace the stuff that they felt a long time anyway. Bro, I went to a all-boy Catholic high school in Chicago that was like 90% white. Like, I know how racist white people can be in their everyday life. The same dude who will invite you to his crib to hang out and play video games will say a sly comment. I say it all the time. Like, I went through 4 years of high school and I had a bunch of white friends when I started my freshman year. And by the time I graduated, like, those dudes were still cool, but each one of them at some point had said something or done something that showed me how they really feel about me. So, like, it wasn't like I hate them or I'm fighting them every day, but I know, bro, I know how you really feel because of that one time you said this, like, you let it out. And what you're saying is Trump is just like putting it all out there. Like, look, bro, this is what it is.
Yeah.
Like, this is what it is. And now you got these young cats.
For me, this is activated Black people. This is emboldened Black people. We're protesting. We're doing all these different things now, and it's like, I know I'm assuming from white people's perspective, like, bro, we were gonna do this anyway. Why didn't you just shut up? Yeah. Like, nobody would be protesting. Like, we'd be doing business as usual. The economy would be fine. All this stuff. Like, thousands of people would have died from COVID anyway because Black people don't listen to the government. Like, we don't listen to authority. We were never gonna wear these masks. Like, if you wanted America to wear masks, you should have told them, don't wear masks by force. If you wear masks, we're gonna put you in jail. I'll put my mask on. You see what I'm saying? So like, it's like, I know a lot of people are like, just shut up, bro. Just shut up.
Yeah.
So, cause like, again, for me, like being from Mississippi, when Trump got elected, I was not surprised. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Obama was in office. I know that. He legalized gay marriage. Don't ask, don't. Yeah. You ruffled some feathers, bro. That rubber band went all the way back the other way.
This is Reconstruction, bro. This is Reconstruction. Like, that's the thing people don't get. Like, you know, people who haven't studied history and study what happened, bro. Like, after the Civil War, bro, like those first few years, Black people were thriving, bro. Like, we get people in office and doing all these things. And there was a pushback, a crazy pushback that gave us, 60, 70 years of fucking Jim Crow and lynching and all that. And that's what we're going through right now. The only thing is they don't have the numbers, bro. And that's what you and I are saying, like, bro, yeah, that's cool. Y'all can do what y'all want to do, bro. But Black babies are still being born every day in Africa, bro, and here in the States, bro, and in Brazil, and in the Caribbean.
And this is interesting. So I was on a focus group for DFID. That's the UK version of USAID, right? So they did a focus group where they asked the so-called top minds or whatever in different spaces to get their feedback. And basically, all right, so they bring me in this thing basically, and what it is they're mapping out for DFID the plan for the next 10 years in Nigeria. And I was like, at first when I first came there, and this is how they get Black people. At first when they invited me there, because I'm a sharp guy, but I was like, wow, recognition. They know that I'm out here in these streets doing this work, doing my thing. They invited me here. But basically the focus group, they wanted to ask us our opinion on how they could achieve their goals. One of the goals they had was population control. Like, how do we stop the population from growing so fast in Nigeria? And at that point I was like, why is that any of your damn business? Who invited you to come? Like, this isn't a government. This isn't Nigerian government sponsored or anything. This is a foreign government aid group that's coming in here saying that we need to control the population of Africa. We got to be very careful who we do business with.
That's what I'm saying when my pitch for AfriBlocks, when I'm talking about, hey, bro, 60% of the nation, the continent is under the age of 25. Like, this is the future. But then, you know, I don't talk about this stuff, but in the back of my mind, the population in Europe is going down.
Everywhere else is getting older.
The population in the United States is going down. Japan, like everywhere except Africa and a few other countries in Southeast Asia.
Even you look at what Canada is doing, Canada is giving people houses, jobs, month in advance, like billboards on malls and different stuff. Come to Canada, and it's just like, so this is the beginning of the new slave trade. Yeah. And they're not going to now, they don't even need, this is how slick they are, which is why I said Donald Trump is a snitch. At this point, they're so slick with it where they don't have to come and send a boat. They don't got to come and put you in chains, and they know how much money they're going to make off of your black back. Yeah. We'll buy your ticket. We'll put you in a house. Come on over. The water's fine.
Yeah.
Cold as hell in Canada.
That's what's pushing, and that's why you see these same movements popping up across the globe. It's not just here. I got some friends. A friend of mine, you know, he's from Brazil. He's a Brazilian. He's a white guy though. He's a white Brazilian, but you know, he's super liberal, right? Like, so, you know, we get to talk about certain things, and you know, we kind of connect on that space. You know, he likes to talk about revolutionary stuff, but, you know, he's saying basically his president in Brazil is Donald Trump.
Yeah, it is.
Like, yeah, it's the same.
Now, the government politics tipped far right in a few different places with Trump. So you mentioned one, there's Brazil. This dude in Hungary is lit. But yeah.
These people are seeing, like, these people know, right? Like, the average white guy walking around with a MAGA hat on, like, he feels it. Like, he feels his country changing. Like, he feels these things happening. But, like, if you ask him about population and stuff, he has no idea. But the people who are making the rules, they understand what's going on. And one thing I think as a people across the diaspora we have to get better at is planning our actions out 10 years, 20 years in advance. Like
I heard of a conference. Maybe it's not true. This is, I can't even think of the name now. There's a super elite level conference, and basically all the actual world leaders are coming together and basically planning for like the next 200 years, like
wow.
in 200-year blocks. So, and now when you start looking at it like that from that context, like a lot of these, they're playing chess and we're playing checkers.
Yeah,
Like,
man.
even if you look at, like, if you want to look at a lot of it in the African continent, a lot of the colonized countries were done by the UK, and the UK is one of the best, most creme de la creme when it comes to espionage, states craftsmanship, and different stuff like that. And it's like when you start looking at that again, it's like living under a more of a British or a UK rule, how they conduct themselves, how again classism is just baked in. Don't talk unless I know you. Like I've been in posh places where like in Chicago, like you don't just run up and talk to people if you don't know them, but it's for a completely different reason.
Right,
But here
right.
it's just like it's like everybody is trying to be the like they're in the royal court, or either they're in the royal court or they're trying to get in as a courtesan or something. I don't know. But there's like this feeling. And it's just like, just the more I learn about British culture, the more I see like this is some sneaky stuff. This
Yeah.
is some like triple, double, quadruple layer. You think they're coming at you over here, and they're really been over here the whole time, and they never wanted that. Like we gotta pay attention. We gotta plan in advance, and we gotta be prepared to take some L's, like L's in the short term, if we're ever gonna even start to balance things.
And nobody's gonna save us, man. I didn't talk about this, when we were live, but like, I just being the guy that I am and reading about this stuff and reading about African history, man, I went the opposite way, right? So like we grow up, we say these derogatory terms and African booty scratcher and stuff like that. And you make fun of the
That was a
kid.
classic. That was a classic.
He'll have an accent, right? Like Cordy was saying, or you black as this or something. All this stuff. And then when you start to kind of enlighten yourself a little bit, you go the opposite. And you think, well, everybody's amazing, right? Like this is the creator of the universe. But then you actually meet people like, oh shit, y'all going through some of the same shit we going through. Like y'all
Man.
praying to white Jesus every day and doing all these things.
Yeah.
We all are here and we got our different things that we're fighting against, man. So like, let's just link up and fight all this shit at the same time, as opposed to, me trying to solve it over here thinking I'm better than you. You on this side trying to think you, because that comes up a lot too. Like I see it on Twitter and I don't really experience it personally. And I got a boy, one of my homies, his parents are from Nigeria. He played on the Nigerian Olympic team, the basketball team. So I got asked his parents straight up. They came here for college and they stayed. And I said, what stereotypes did you hear about Black Americans before you got here? Like what built, like where did that come from? And they both said, look, man, when we were in Africa, the only exposure we had to Black Americans was Shaft, you know what I'm saying? The movie Shaft and like these different films. So straight up, our mind was that everybody was like a gangster, shit talking, tough guy. So when people told us don't fuck with them. Don't hang around the Black Americans. Like get you some white friends. And it's like it took years for us to even like understand what was really going on. And I think we got to do the same thing on our end, going over to the continent. Like these things have been put in our head for a reason, man. Like it's
on
not
both sides. On
both
both
sides, man. So there's no one person who's better. Like yes, I have said some shitty things about African people. I have some, and I probably still have some shitty preconceived notions about Africa and African people. There's probably still some underlying level of superiority in my lifestyle compared to somebody else's lifestyle. And I have to recognize that, be honest enough to say that shit is there, and then approach it from there. And I think, my brothers and sisters on the other side got to do the same thing. That's the only way it's going to happen, bro. It's not going to be, Black folks need to stop acting like they better than us. Well, y'all need to stop acting like y'all better than us. Like that, it ain't gonna.
It's real though, and we got to realize these things have like real life implications. Yeah. So like if we looked at like So like for me, I remember like within a like 2 week period, I was given like a different perspective on the African slave trade. Where at one point I was believing like, man, these white people just came and stole everybody. I know that the Africans were like giving them some people, but then they ran. But then somebody gave me some historical context. It was like, nah, bruh, like once the slave trade was really on and popping, like whole entire economies in the African continent were based on the slave trade. And at that point, they could not stop. They could not stop, or you were going to collapse everything. And it was just like, oh, so we really was pushing ourselves out there like that. And it was like, yeah, bro, it's real. Like we sold like we messed up. We messed up on that part. It was us. Like I say us, but like it was Africans selling, like pushing Africans out there. Like we knew what was going on. We sent them over there. Now on the flip side, the only thing go ahead. Because the flip side is what we did.
Right, and I was gonna say this, like, so Megan Thee Stallion just did Saturday Night Live performance, and she called the guy Daniel Cameron Uncle Tom a sellout, just like those people, those sellouts who sold our people into slavery, right? So like, I was kind of offended by it. Like I understood what she was saying, but like I'm sitting here saying, well, yeah, you know, we were a part of it, but we weren't the catalyst of the whole system. But it's just like what we were saying before about, you know, finding out about your heroes and that they were human. It's never as simple as black and white.
Exactly.
Like it's always a deeper thing. And like, if you talk about kind of like you said, bro, like with the Chinese and people, like, bro, what are you gonna replace this with? If I'm 15, 16 years old, and you know my family has been trading people at the port, you know what I mean, to Europeans, and this is what we do to make our money, and this is how I've been eating since I've been born. Like, who am I to come in and say, nah, what you doing is wrong, bro? I'm surviving, man. Like it is wrong, and it does need to stop. But like you said, I got to replace that with something, right?
Exactly.
Certain people took advantage of that. Like they take advantage of that and they use it against the same. I mean, we could apply that analogy to everything, man. We could dope boys in the hood, you know what I'm saying, selling dope. Same thing, bro. Like you know this shit ain't good, but you gotta eat, man.
Yeah.
You know it's not good.
Man, I ain't gonna lie. When like Jay-Z made that song, he talking about he sold dope to his mama or somebody sold. I think it was Jay-Z.
It was Jay-Z.
I was like, I can't fuck with you no more. like I listen to your music, but like if we start talking about who's the best rapper, it's like it's not you.
Right.
Like I like respect your business or whatever, but like just to even say that, like to say that out loud on a tape and sell it to millions of people, you sold crack to your mama, bruh, I can't fuck with you. Like there ain't no way. Like everybody's like kind of prejudging Jay-Z. Like, is he for the people? Did he do this when he did the NFL deal? Was that really real? But I was like, he sold crack to his mama. That's why I was like, if there was a microphone, he sold crack to his mama.
Like, he told you who he was, bro.
Just remember
he
that.
Told you.
He told you.
He told you who he was, and he's a
brother. Sold crack, sold drugs to his mama. Like I'm just saying people change or whatever the case may be. It's just like, nah, fam. But then it's like when we start to think like even as Black Americans, we were sold here and all this different stuff happens and like, man, Africans is this and that and the third. We went to Liberia and lost our damn mind. We went over there and basically colonized the indigenous African people that we went over there with and like caused a civil war. Yeah. And it's just like, we all got problems, bro.
Yeah, man. It's been a number run on us, bro. And I think, I think this work that we're doing right now will be beneficial for, you know, next generation and the generation after that and the generation after that. But the work has to keep going, bro. Like, we have to keep doing it, digging out of this thing. And I think that, like you said, the numbers are in our favor. You know, we ain't going nowhere, like, right? So, you know, we might as well do it. And I think we do, bro. Like, we do. I think we're due, you know. When I was in school, my professors used to say, you know, the East is rising, you know, the West is on the decline and the East is rising. And, you know, the East is next world power is going to come from the East, probably China or something like that. And that's cool and all. Like, that's cool. You have your moment, whatever. But like, China was a third world country in 1970. Like, China was
40, 50 years ago, Africa. Whatever you thought of Africa, we thought about China.
Exactly. So don't tell me it's not impossible, bro. Don't tell me these things can't be done. it just take like people like you and you know what I'm saying, what you're building in terms of, like you said, building that ecosystem. It's not going to be one person to save everybody. It's not going to be one organization. It's going to take a unity or connection between all these groups, man. So I'm just trying to do my little small part in this fight, bro. Because it's wild. We could talk. I could talk. I know I could talk to you about this shit for like hours, bro.
Right. We'll cut it short, yeah, because this is even past my bedtime, bro.
Yeah, for real, man. But we gotta do this again, man, because it's good to talk to a brother who doing this right now on the continent, man. And you know, we kind of have similar backgrounds, you know, being here, you know. It's good to get that opinion from you. And I'm glad I got somebody I could call on and say, bro, where can I get the weed, bro? I need to get some weed, man. That's the number one thing I need to figure out before I get there. Like, fuck everything.
One thing that ain't never killed nobody. Because
if I know the stress is gonna kill me, brother. Like I got to. I need my coping mechanism. So yeah, this was great though, bro. This was great. Yeah, this was great. You said it's gonna air on Sunday?
I think it's gonna be like next Sunday. So we have one coming out this Sunday and then the next Sunday. So what we're trying to do is like basically just package as many as we can. Bruh, I'm not gonna lie. Like we don't know what our future holds. I'm recording as much of this content as I can, kind of like Tupac and Machiavelli if possible. But like I'm recording, creating content, getting it edited, packaged, put down. But basically every Sunday we're dropping a new video.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna share it, man. I'm gonna share it. This is part of that, you know, manifesting what we just talked about in terms of being out there and putting a face to the work that we're doing. So I'll definitely share it. It was definitely a good platform to talk about what we're building in Afrobox, you know, in addition to the living abroad stuff. So I'll share, I'll pump it. I'll do the same thing. Like I try to when I can, but if I see anything coming out in terms of aggressive for good, you know, I'm gonna push it. We've definitely been telling people in our pitch that we partner with y'all. We partner with Aggressive for Good, Coursera, you know. So yeah, man.
I got you. I'll be a reference, all that stuff.
We here, man. Whatever. You know, if you ever need any work, let me know. If you ever just want to chop it up, you know, I'll shoot you. I got to get more active on WhatsApp, but I'll shoot you a message and let you know, what's going on. Keep you updated, bro. And I hope you do the same, you know.
All right, appreciate it. Same here, bro. Same here. Appreciate your time tonight, man.
Have a good one, man. Have a good one.
All right, bro. You too.
All right, peace.
All right.